recording in progress. Okay. Got it. Let's start off by welcoming our new commissioner, Peggy Taylor.
Hello.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me all right?
We can. So why don't you introduce yourself, and we'll introduce ourselves as commissioners, and we'll look forward to a time when we can actually do this all being in the same room and breathing the same air safely and smiling at each other.
Exactly. Well, I'm gonna leave the video on for a while, but I'm up in Whitefish and they do not have the best internet or phone service up here. So I just moved here. I have been a teacher, a librarian, and a principal, been retired for a few years. I have two daughters, one in Bozeman and one in Kalispell. And I am gonna plan on going back and forth between those two places. I'm in Whitefish right now because I have a 6-day-old, my first grandson, Emmett James,
Wow.
on Friday. So
Wow.
been doing some grandma duty and
excellent.
to him, and it's great. So libraries have always been important to me. I lived out of town and I remember going to the Shelby Library as a little girl, and I had to check out 10 to 12 books because I lived out of town. So I've been a reader forever, and if I didn't have my Kindle during the pandemic, I probably wouldn't have made it through. So just reading and libraries are important, and I've been out of education for about 5 years, and I was so excited when Kristen Juris asked me to join this commission and get back in what I'm passionate about. So I'm excited to meet you.
Well, we're excited to have you. This is really great. So you're in Whitefish now?
Yes. I just got up there from Shelby. I'll be spending time between Whitefish and Bozeman. So
wow.
Doing our business in Shelby. I have to make a few more trips back there, but going to be over here now. So
did you find it easy to become a grandma?
It was. My daughter, it was pretty easy. She did tell me though, I had to start the library for him because they like to keep things in their small little house at a minimum. So I said, well, you can't have too many books. And she said, well, you have to check them out and bring them over to us and then take them back.
Good for you. Good for you.
Grandma library. So.
Well, that's wonderful. My oldest daughter is the kids librarian in Kalispell.
Oh, nice.
So if you wander in that direction, stick your head in and say hi. Well, I'm Bruce Newell, and I'm chair today and not chair tomorrow. So, but I'd like to welcome you and to the group, and we're glad you're aboard. I came to Montana in 1980 and worked for the state library for a while, and then worked for the public library here in town for a while, and then worked again for the state library before I retired. Tomorrow, rather than going backpacking in this beautiful clear air, I'm going to launch a boat that's been being built in my basement for way more time than this is really polite to talk about. And so we're at the Newell House. We're excited about that. Kenning, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Bruce. I'm Kenning Arlich. I'm the Dean of the Library at Montana State University, and I am the higher education appointee to the State Library Commission, and I'm also vice chair.
Great.
Nice
Elsie?
to meet you, Peggy.
Elsie?
There we go. Good morning, Peggy. Welcome. And I hope your internet service continues throughout the remainder of this meeting and others that you are going to be partaking in. As a state superintendent, I've been committed to the commission in understanding what a very small agency as a library is compared to other agencies that we have. But the braiding between reading and access to literacy is really important to me. It's about the connection between rural and urban, and especially since we've been thrust into this with the pandemic, wanting to know exactly where our broadband services are. But you're also going to understand there's more things in the state library does besides literacy. And to me, that connectivity is still there. In the land board role that I have, we use a lot of the mapping and the cadastral and LIDARs and everything moving forward on our public school trust lands. So welcome and congratulations on being a grandmother. In my family, it's called being a Maymay. And from one Maymay to another, congratulations.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Kristen.
Hi, my name is Kristen Kerr and I live in Helena, Montana. I'm excited to be on this commission, just started as well. I'm a realtor. We have 3 daughters between my husband and I, and one's at MSU in Bozeman, one's going to go back to Grand Canyon University in Phoenix, and then one's here in Helena, going to be a junior. So excited to be a part of this group.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And let's see, Dalton, are you with us?
Hey, Bruce. Good morning. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Dalton.
State Library. And Peggy, I believe you're the new commissioner. Nice to meet you. My name's Dalton. I'm a native to the Helena area, but I live in Missoula. I'm a graduate student at the University of Montana, and I work at the city of Missoula in the Human Resource Department. I think Elsie did a great job summarizing the broad aspect of the Montana State Library. Thank you for that, Elsie, and welcome to the team, Peggy.
Wonderful. Jenny and I think senior staff, that'd be good for you folks to introduce yourselves.
Yeah, let's introduce Robin in just a minute.
Oh, I have a check mark next to Robin.
Good morning. That's okay. I'm Robin Scribner. I live in Geraldine, Montana, in the middle of nowhere. I am a retired teacher and librarian, kindergarten teacher for 20 years and various other grades, the other 9, and also played the library and was the librarian. My husband and I have a farm and ranch here in Geraldine, and we have 3 daughters. Our oldest one, she and her family, and my two of my grandchildren live with us, or not with us, but live here on the ranch. They help and work off the ranch also, because as you know, ranches can't survive with everybody just working on the ranch. So, and then my second daughter, she is a nurse in Missoula, and they have a little girl, my granddaughter, and are expecting another little granddaughter here in February. And then my youngest daughter is, right now she works for Governor Gianforte, and she just accepted a job with Senator Daines in Great Falls. So she's a teacher, but decided to go into politics. Anyway, then so I've got 3 grandkids, another one on the way, and that is basically my life besides trying to be the gopher here. I go for parts and I go for food and I go for whatever. As long as they don't shoot me, I'm okay. But I've always loved books. The first library I remember was in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, an old Carnegie library that I just loved. And it was always, we would walk downtown and it was our safe spot. It was just a wonderful place to go. So libraries have always been in my heart. And that's it. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. And congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you, Jenny. Please take her away here.
Welcome, Bruce. Hello, good morning. I'm Jenny Stapp. I'm the state librarian. I've held this position for almost 10 years now. I too am a Montana native. I grew up in Columbia Falls and have been here in Helena for about 20 years. I've worked for the state library since 2005. And I'm excited for our new commissioners to learn even more about the work of the state library today. This is a really important meeting as we start our new fiscal year. It's a chance for the lead staff within the state library to come to the meeting and share information about some of the work that we've accomplished in the last year, and to give you more information about the priorities that we have for the coming year. If you have questions, please, we encourage you to ask whatever questions that you have. We've asked staff to be sure and provide a little bit of background and context to the information that they'll be sharing for the new commissioners. We don't want this to feel like you're drinking too much from a fire hose, so please do ask questions, and Peggy will look forward to doing an orientation with you in the coming weeks. Really glad to have such a great commission.
And Evan, are you with us?
Yes. Good morning. Evan Hammer, Digital Library Administrator. I won't spend a lot of time on what that is. As Jenny said, we're going to have the leads giving some highlights from our work plan, and so you'll get a good sense of that. But the very, very quick version is the types of services we provide directly to patrons, including state publications, natural resource information, water information, natural heritage program, and the Talking Book Library. With that, I'll hand it off to Melissa. Welcome aboard, Peggy.
Thank you, Evan. Melissa.
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Melissa Briggs, and I am the Central Services Manager here at the State Library. I've been here coming up on 3 years, so my feet are now wet, so to speak. It's nice to see all of the commissioners and meet our new commissioners. I'm looking forward to working with all of you. My role here at the library consists of oversight of human resources, procurement, accounting, budgeting, that kind of work. So you'll hear from me quarterly with the financial reports, along with some other things that come up as we go. So it's really nice to see all of you, and I'm looking forward to the meeting today.
Thank you very much. Jenny, who else do you want to introduce themselves?
You know, why don't we wait until we get to the leads portion of the agenda, and then more staff can introduce themselves.
That's great. That's great. We're trying to kind of sneak in a little bit of orientation here at the same time as having a meeting, so that's great. Well, Jenny, would you take over with the staff longevity then recognition?
I'm very happy to recognize some of our longtime staff that we've had here at the State Library. I'm going to start by recognizing Tracy Cook, who's with us today. And as your agenda notes, we're acknowledging her 5 years of service to the State Library. But in reality, she's worked for the State Library for about 15 years. She had a break in service when she decided she wanted to go live in Europe and do a few other things. And we're very fortunate that she decided to come back to Montana and to the Montana State Library. I actually first knew of Tracy before I ever met her, because she and I both went to the University of Arizona for our master's in library science program. She had graduated a year ahead of me and was going to be moving to Montana, and my instructors and classmates all knew that I was going to Montana and from Montana, and they all wanted to know if I knew Tracy Cook because she was just so fabulous. And so I quickly got to know her and realized that they were absolutely right when I started working at the State Library. Tracy is a lead consulting and learning librarian for the State Library. You'll get to know her a little bit more later in the agenda. A couple of things I just want to say about Tracy. She is our go-to expert on questions of library law. Whenever we or another library has questions about what is written in Montana law about the operations of libraries around the state, she is our go-to expert, and we really rely heavily on her for that. She has a real strong motivation to support advocacy and development of libraries around the state, a real passion for that work, and is working hard to help librarians and boards and other supporters of libraries to become better advocates for libraries in our state. And I think Tracy is one of the most empathetic people I know. She takes very seriously and sincerely the work of libraries and the importance of helping to support them in her role as a consultant in making their work even better. So Tracy, thank you so much for all of your work and dedication, and we're so glad to have you on our staff.
Yeah, thank you, Tracy.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. I told Bruce one time that like the things I think make life a good thing are time with family and friends and outdoors and meaningful work. And I feel very privileged because I get to do meaningful work every day. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. I have to say that 5 instead of 50 behind your name does seem a little bit odd.
It does.
You're one of the people I think still associated with the State Library that has a lot of history and has seen remarkable changes during your tenure. So very cool. Thank you for being with us.
And next, we're going to celebrate Jennifer Burnell. Jennifer's been with us for 10 years. She's actually been in a couple of different roles with the State Library. When we first hired her 10 years ago, it was with federal funding from the Broadband Technology Opportunity Program grant that was funded through the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act after the 2008 economic decline. Those were funds that allowed us to invest in broadband and computer technology through libraries. Jennifer had been a teacher and she came to the State Library as a digital literacy trainer and helped libraries to develop their digital literacy and digital inclusion programs with that grant funding. And then we were really fortunate that as that grant was ending, we had the opportunity to hire her into the position of director of our Montana Memory Project. And you're going to learn a lot more about what that is a little bit later in the agenda. Jennifer has just brought a real passion and enthusiasm for the act of remembering in Montana, capturing what is culturally important about our state and making that information available. Because she is sort of a one-woman operation, she is responsible for everything from creating the kinds of relationships and partnerships that result in the really rich, robust content that's available through our Montana Memory Project that's provided by libraries and museums and archives around the state. She's responsible for training the professionals who are creating the digital content and making it accessible. She's responsible for all of the back-end system configuration that makes all that great content accessible. She is responsible for helping to develop the web interface itself. So really, the Montana Memory Project could not exist without all of her incredibly hard effort. We're really, really looking forward to the fact that we're going to be able to get her some support with some of our ARPA funds that we have coming to the state libraries. Again, Jennifer, we're just so grateful to have you on board and so appreciative of all of your hard work in providing what is really an essential service through libraries.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, I remember the end of BTOP, I was panicking because I didn't want to leave the state library. And I was thinking, oh my God, where am I going next? I don't know. I don't really want to go back to the classroom. That's not where I'm headed. And I love the training and the work I did with adults. And so I was very, very glad to take on the Montana Memory Project, and I feel very fortunate to continue that work.
It seems to me that you really ably sort of spearheaded this, what I see as a sort of inevitable transition of libraries into becoming recorders and publishers of information. It's happening kind of more slowly than I guess I would have anticipated, perhaps as you too, but you've done such a super job as kind of helping people be more comfortable, helping librarians be more comfortable with that role and with seeing the value and telling our stories and sharing our stories digitally. I just think it's such an important job you have, and thank you. I'm glad you're not back in the classroom, although it's their loss.
Thanks, Bruce.
We're going to ask Evan to recognize Troy.
Thanks, Jenny. Well, I'm very excited as well to recognize Troy Blandford for his 15 years of service here at the state of Montana. Troy's actually been here at the library, I believe it's 8 or 9 years. He came in around 2012, 2013. Those of you that were on the commission, it was the last meeting or the meeting before that, will remember we had Aaron's 15-year longevity at that one. So 2006 was a good year for state GIS. Troy, I recall when we were able to reestablish the Water Information System Manager position. I remember, I knew Troy from my time at DNRC before I came to the library. And I remember thinking, he could be a really good water information system manager. I wasn't sure if he'd apply or not, and wasn't sure if it would work out, but turns out it was even better than I had ever imagined. He's done so much great work in the time that he's been here. You know, the most recent example is the work on LIDAR. I'm not going to dig into a lot of detail there because I think he's going to talk about that a little later, but just can't say enough about the work that Troy's done while he's been here. Thank you, Troy. You're muted.
Evan, thanks for those words. You know, usually I'm pretty uncomfortable being recognized, but that wasn't so bad. The ingredients for longevity are passion for your work, which Tracy hit on, and also leadership, especially leadership that cares about their employees. And then, of course, good coworkers. And I feel very fortunate to have all those things at the State Library. So thank you very much.
Well, we're certainly lucky to have you, Troy. And I think that you're the work that you've been doing and will continue to do is so central to managing information and knowledge about the state. Without water, there ain't nothing. And
right.
As I think you pointed out, that elevation and water go kind of together and are linked. And I've learned from you, and I look forward to learning more from you. And I thank you for being in your position, and keep up the good work. I think your work is just unfortunately becoming more important all the time and more critical in so many ways. So hang in there. I hope you don't mind working when you're 85.
Troy, I ran into one of your former DNRC colleagues up at Granite Park in the last couple of days, and he was still bemoaning your loss at DNRC. Well, it is wonderful. We are indeed extraordinarily fortunate to have such a great staff at the State Library, and it's fun to be able to recognize folks. It's not on your agenda, but it turns out that only one of our members, and that wasn't me, had it together to look at the executive session minutes. And so what I think we're going to do is we're going to break into an executive session, and I think Genevieve, you're going to figure out a way of doing that.
I'll open the room here in a minute.
And what I'll do is we'll all have a chance to read the minutes, and then we'll go out of executive session, back in, and begin the consent agenda, and go ahead and consider the executive session minutes as part of that, of those 4 bulleted items in that agenda. I'll kind of use my best judgment about how long we'll stay in executive session. If someone disagrees, please speak up if you haven't had a chance to read it. So Genevieve, take us away.
Okay, here we go.
This won't be long.
So you should receive an invite to head over to